Something happened to me in a meeting last year that I want to start with today, because I think about it more than I should.
What happened?
A new colleague was presenting. She was from Glasgow, Scotland. Strong accent, fast speaker. I understood maybe 60% of what she said in the first 5 minutes. I kept nodding. I was in a room with 8 other people and I did not want to be the one who asked her to slow down.
So you nodded.
I nodded through the entire presentation, and at the end she asked if anyone had questions. And I had no questions because I had no idea what she had said.
And no one else asked either.
Someone asked one question that was clearly a question they had prepared before the meeting. And then we all filed out. And I went back to my desk and had to reconstruct the meeting from context clues and emails.
Did you ever tell her?
Never. We worked together for 6 months, and every time I saw her, I thought about the fact that I had nodded to an entire presentation I did not understand and never said a word about it.
I think that is one of the most universal experiences of operating in English as a non-native speaker, or even as a native speaker in a new accent context.
The nodding through incomprehension.
The desperate nodding. I have done it so many times. You reach a point where you have missed too much to ask for clarification without revealing that you have been missing things for the past 3 minutes, and asking now feels like admitting to everything.
So you just commit to not knowing.
You commit to not knowing and hope that the conversation resolves itself before anyone asks you a direct question.
And then someone asks you a direct question.
And then someone asks you a direct question, and you say something that is either too vague or completely wrong, and they look at you with that expression.
The expression
that says, this person has not been following this conversation.
This happens at every level of English fluency. By the way, it is not a beginner problem. Accents, speed, background noise, topic-specific vocabulary, someone who swallows the ends of their sentences, any of these can take even a confident speaker and suddenly make them feel like they are back at the beginning.
What should you actually do?
Ask immediately the moment you lose the thread, not 3 minutes later, not at the end, the moment you realize you have missed something.
But that is so uncomfortable.
It is much less uncomfortable than what I described. And here is the thing that most people do not realize. Asking someone to repeat themselves is never as disruptive as you fear it will be. From the speaker's perspective, it means you are paying attention. It means what they are saying matters to you.
I have been the speaker in situations like this, someone stopping me to ask for clarification, and I am always glad when it happens, because it tells me I have been unclear, or too fast, or that I need to think about how I am explaining something.
The interruption feels bigger to the person asking than to the person being asked.
Almost always.
So what do you actually say? Because sorry, can you repeat? That sounds fine in theory, but in practice people freeze because they do not know how to frame it.
I have a few that I use. I am sorry. Could you say that once more? I want to make sure I have got that. That one is soft and it puts the responsibility on you, not on them. It implies, I want to understand this correctly, not, you were unclear.
That framing matters enormously. Framing it as your responsibility rather than their failure makes the whole thing land differently.
Another one I use when I have missed a chunk rather than a single sentence. I think I lost the thread there for a moment. Could you take me back to the point about blank?
That is more honest. It admits you missed more than one thing, but it is specific. You are asking them to return to a particular point which shows you were listening enough to know where you got lost.
And it gives them something concrete to go back to rather than asking them to repeat everything.
The honest, specific ask is almost always better than the vague, polite one. Sorry, I missed that is less useful than I think I got lost somewhere around the part about the deadline. Could we go back there?
Now what about when the issue is not that you missed something, but that you heard the words and you still do not understand what they mean? Different problem.
Completely different, and one that needs different language.
Because you cannot ask someone to repeat something you already heard clearly. That is not going to solve the problem.
In that case, you name what you did understand and ask about the gap. So something like, I think I understand up to the part where you said blank. Could you help me understand what you mean by blank?
That shows you were listening, and it is precise about where the confusion is.
which helps them give you a better answer because they know exactly where to focus.
There is another version of this that I find useful in professional contexts, asking for confirmation rather than repetition. So, instead of asking them to say it again, you say back what you think they meant and check so. Just to make sure I understood you correctly, you are saying blank. Is that right?
That technique is called a check question, and it is one of the most powerful tools in professional English communication, not just for learners, for anyone.
Because it does two things at once. It confirms your understanding, and it gives the other person a chance to correct any misreading without it feeling like a failure on either side.
And it often surfaces gaps that neither person realized existed. You repeat back what you understood and they say, yes, but I also meant blank. And suddenly you both have more clarity than you had before.
I use this constantly with clients, because design briefs are full of language that sounds specific, but is actually very vague. So I will say back to them, so when you say modern, you mean blank. And they will say, yes, but actually more like blank. And we spend 20 minutes discovering that their vision was quite different from what I had assumed.
The check question uncovers the assumption gap.
Every time.
Now let us talk about accents specifically, because this is where a lot of learners feel the most shame. You feel like you should understand. You feel like not understanding reflects badly on you, and so you perform understanding instead of asking for help.
The shame makes it worse.
The shame is the whole problem, because without the shame, you would just ask.
I grew up learning a particular variety of English, British English mostly, because of the education system I was in, and then I moved to an environment where I was suddenly hearing Oscartian English.
And from what you learned.
And my first instinct was always shame. I should understand this. Why can I not follow this? What is wrong with me?
Nothing is wrong with you. You were not exposed to those varieties. Your brain has not built the patterns. Yet that is not a failure. It is just experience you have not had.
And the solution is exposure and asking, not pretending.
The pretending creates the problem. If you pretend to understand an accent you do not yet follow, you never build the exposure you need to eventually follow it. You just spend years nodding through things you are not getting.
Like you in the Glasgow presentation.
Like me and the Glasgow presentation. For the record, I later told that colleague. About 2 months after the fact, she laughed for a very long time and then said, "Why did you not just tell me? I would have slowed down."
And would you have believed that in the moment?
No, but it was true. People almost always will slow down when you ask. They would rather be understood than be fast.
Useful phrases for the moment of incomprehension, the ones that actually work.
I am sorry, could you say that once more? I want to make sure I've got that right. I think I lost the thread around the part about blank. Could you go back there just to check? I understood you are saying blank. Have I got that right? I heard what you said, but I am not sure I have understood what you meant.
And for the accent-specific situation, I want to make sure I am following you correctly. Could you go a little slower, or I am still getting used to blank accents. Could you repeat that?
That last one is brave, naming the accent.
It is brave, but it is also the most honest. And honesty usually gets the most generous response.
Because the other person knows they have an accent, they are not surprised by this information.
And most people would rather you name it than pretend.
There's one more thing worth saying. The best time to ask for clarification is always earlier than feels comfortable. Not after 3 minutes of nodding, not at the end when you have to reconstruct the whole conversation, the first moment you realize you have lost something.
The discomfort of asking early is a fraction of the discomfort of getting caught nodding through something you did not understand.
And the connection you build by being honest about what you did not catch is always stronger than the connection you try to maintain by pretending you did.
Here is where we leave you. Think of the last time you nodded through something you did not fully understand in English. What stopped you from asking? And if you had asked, what would have been the worst realistic outcome?
I want to add something that does not get talked about enough. The other side of this situation being the person who is hard to understand.
What do you mean?
If you have an accent, or you speak fast, or you use vocabulary that is specific to your region or field, you are also responsible for part of the comprehension gap. It is not only the listener's job to follow you.
This is something I had to learn when I moved into more international work environments. I had developed certain habits in how I communicated that worked perfectly well in one context and landed strangely in another.
What kind of habits?
Irony mostly in certain English-speaking cultures. Irony is so embedded in conversation that you barely notice you are using it. But in cross-culture communication, irony can be completely invisible. You say the opposite of what you mean, and someone takes it at face value and agrees? And now you have a problem.
I have made this mistake teaching. I will say something sarcastically and half the class takes it literally, and then I have to unpick it, which takes 3 times as long as just saying what I meant in the first place.
So part of communicating well across difference is knowing when your usual style is not serving the situation.
Checking your own habits before expecting the other person to keep up with them.
What are the habits worth checking?
Speed. Most people speak faster when they are comfortable and familiar with a topic. If you know the material well, you will naturally accelerate. But your listener may not be at the same pace.
Idioms and fixed expressions. These are invisible to you because you have used them your whole life. But to someone encountering them for the first time, they are just confusing.
Sentence length. Long sentences with multiple clauses are harder to follow in a second language. A short sentence that lands clearly is worth 3 clever long ones that get lost.
And volume, genuinely speaking at a reasonable volume, so that the other person is not also trying to compensate for not being able to hear properly, while also trying to follow the language.
All of these are things you can adjust without losing what you want to say. You are not dumbing down, you are making the connection possible.
There is a principle in design I come back to a lot. If the user cannot find what they are looking for, the problem is the design, not the user. You do not blame the person who cannot follow your interface. You fix the interface.
Apply that to communication, and it is, if your listener cannot follow what you are saying, at least some of the responsibility lies with how you are saying it.
Not all of it, but some of it.
This is not about apologizing for who you are or flattening your natural way of speaking. It is about being genuinely interested in whether the other person is receiving what you are sending.
Which requires paying attention to them while you speak, not just to the words coming out of your own mouth.
And that is the loop you are watching them to see if they are following. They are watching you to understand what you mean. Both of you are responsible for the quality of what passes between you.
When both people are doing that, something real gets communicated, even across different accents, different speeds, different first languages.
And when neither person is doing it, you get a room full of people nodding through a Glasgow presentation they did not understand.
You are not going to let that go.
I use it to teach myself. Every time I feel the impulse to nod through something I have not caught, I remember the filing cabinet I apologized to the wrong David in the coffee shop and the Glasgow presentation. All of them taught me something about the cost of performing understanding instead of building it.
The cost of performance over honesty.
In any direction.
One small practical note before tomorrow. If you are in a situation where you genuinely cannot ask, the meeting is recorded. The speaker is presenting to a large group and cannot be interrupted. You are in an exam. Save your question for the earliest possible moment. After. And when that moment comes, be specific.
The specific late question is always better than the vague immediate one.
And better than saying nothing at all.
Much better than saying nothing at all.
Here is where we leave you. Think of the last time you nodded through something you did not fully understand in English. What stopped you from asking? And if you had asked, what would have been the worst realistic outcome?
We will see you tomorrow.
Take good care.